Hello there. First it was the Tory leadership hopefuls telling us how they'd shuffle the energy crisis deck chairs about. But now the Labour leader Keir Starmer has also joined in. Well, my channel co-pilot Richard has done another great video, link in the descriptions box below. If you listen to politicians talking about how they would address the cost of living crisis for any length of time, you get to realise that there's barely the width of a cigarette paper between their so-called different policies. The first point to note is that none of them are talking seriously about using the copious amounts of gas, oil and coal we have beneath our feet and waters. No, all they do is talk about shifting taxes, imposing windfall taxes, giving loans to the big energy companies so that they can keep the cost to the consumer down, or tinkering with the domestic fuel price caps and the like. As an example, in an article in the Telegraph, Rishi Sunak talks about dealing with the energy crisis, firstly with financial support, then securing non-Russian sources of energy, and finally by saving energy, not producing more, but getting us to use less energy. And the rest of his plan relies on having enough wind, solar and nuclear power, based in Scotland, by 2045 to make the UK energy independent. Over 20 years to do stuff we haven't been doing for the last 20 years. Now, to be fair to Rishi, why? Well, he does talk about ramping up UK gas and oil production in the short term to bridge the gap, but that will take extra unplanned investment from the very firms we're slapping a windfall tax on. But he also did not even refer to the net zero aim in his piece at all, leading me to assume he's sticking to every green target there is. And if he's going to do that, then his proposals sound contradictory and incoherent. Surely the first thing we need to do is at least postpone net zero until we have a clear route map that does not leave people freezing in winter. Unless net zero goes, all politicians will be doing is shuffling a few deck chairs while the ship sinks. All this will end up with higher taxes and money that the big energy companies will end up getting back from us in the long run by increased prices, as well as killing off any chance of an economic rebound. The real truth is that there is a shortage of non-Russian gas and oil out there. This drives the price up, and in a globalized, interconnected world, our consumers are not wealthy enough to afford their own energy anymore. And nationalisation would not change that. In fact, nationalising the energy companies would be the worst investment for the taxpayer ever made by a government. Why? Because the government is right now busily legislating gas boilers out of houses and petrol and diesel cars off of the roads over the next decade or so, while it drives fossil fuel use out of the UK. So nationalising those companies would entail paying through the nose to get them, and then paying even more public money to make people redundant in the coming years, and pay to decommission the whole fossil fuel setup too. Rigs and pipelines, and even the ones under our streets would have to go or be filled in. Does that sound like a solid investment decision to you? And does it sound like something the windfall taxed energy companies would want to invest in today, just for a handful of years, and be something that might not pay that investment back? Unless they get backstopped by the taxpayer, of course. To get involved in this, those energy bosses will insist on a clause in the contract promising that the taxpayer will make up for any losses they suffer as a result of a short-term but expensive investment. Otherwise, no deal. And on windfall taxes to help pay for short-term oil and gas investment, most of it would probably be spent on dealing with eco-loons and court cases over opening more drill sites. Unless the government grows a pair, of course. Fat chance. Now, a lot of people have been asking, where is the energy regulator Ofgem in all of this? Why aren't they doing their job? Well, the answer is that they are doing their job. Here is Ofgem's first responsibility, where they say they are responsible for working with government, industry and consumer groups to deliver a net zero economy at the lowest cost to consumers. And its other two main responsibilities are to stamp out sharp and bad practice and enable competition and innovation. But just concentrate on the wording of the first responsibility of working with government, industry and consumer groups to deliver a net zero economy at the lowest cost to consumers. Not delivering energy at the lowest cost to consumers, no, delivering a net zero economy at the lowest cost to you and me. And if by lowest cost that means astronomical costs, then they are still doing their job. In reality, what's happening is that they are delivering an intrinsically expensive net zero economy at the lowest astronomical cost that they can manage for us. So right from the get-go, the aim is net zero, not reasonably priced energy. And that is why politicians are all out there bleating on about which taxes, allowances and handouts they will be helping us with. That's why, in reality, there will be no meaningful move for the UK to extract more oil and gas. But we will buy it elsewhere if it's available, if we can afford it. But all that just means the government taking £2 from us with one hand and giving 10 pence back with the other, because they will not be handing out plentiful and affordable energy. They have no intention of doing so. Remember, Rishi is talking about us saving and using less energy. In fact, what they all seem to be signalling to the world is that the average Brit would rather freeze and starve to death rather than reverse Theresa May's unilateral and nation-destroying net zero target, a target she alone imposed on the nation without debate just before she was forced out of number 10. And no one in the political sphere has the gonads to challenge it. And that decision came after many decades of governments of all colours refusing to grasp the energy security nettle, preferring instead to pass the stick of dynamite with a slow-burning fuse onto the next lot. Probably because they thought they could leave all the difficult decisions to those boys and girls in Brussels. And during those now lost decades, just look at the balls that our successive governments have dropped. Energy security, food security, water security, national security. But our politicians have managed to ring-fence the foreign aid budget and the English Channel red carpet and associated hotels. Those politicians have no regard for you and I at all, especially as most of them get in on the back of a party ticket, knowing voters will, in the main, always choose red or blue. Even though both Labour and the Tories are forever in open competition about which of them is the most dedicated to net zero.